The night's winds rolled in from the northern sea, colder than any breeze that should have reached the walls of Dragonstone in the final days of autumn. Yet the Red Woman did not shiver. Standing alone upon the battlements, Melisandre felt the keep's black stones breathe heat beneath her bare feet, as though the fortress itself remembered the ancient fires that forged it from volcanic glass and sorrow. The air smelled of salt and sulfur, of distant storms waiting to be born. Behind her, torches sputtered in iron sconces, their flames quivering like small, terrified hearts. She lifted the bronze brazier she carried and set it atop the merlon before her. Dry firewood lay ready inside, bundled in red silk. With a whispered word in the tongue of Ahai, she breathed across the tinder. No spark should have leapt so readily in the wind, but the wood caught at once, crimson tongues twisting skyward. Melisandre's ruby choker pulsed in answer, and the gem's glow mingled with the embers, as though they shared a single secret heartbeat. She leaned over the brazier, closing her eyes. The roar of the sea faded. The cries of gulls grew distant. Only the flame mattered, the one truth in a world of lies. Visions danced within its depths, forming and melting like glass over a smith's forge. She saw a riverboat creeping through morning mist, oars dipping silently into green water. She saw a boy at the prow, broad-shouldered for his years, his black hair tangled by spray. The boy carried a hammer old and pitted, yet held with reverence. And on his chest, though no sigil adorned his rough-spun tunic, she perceived a shadow of a crowned stag, antlers gleaming with blood and gold. Smoke coiled around her face. "Azor Ahai," she breathed, the words a rasp of awe. Not Stannis, as she had believed. No, the fires had spoken a new name, a name unheralded, forged in silence. Bastard-born, yet bright as comet fire, and she would shape him as Lightbringer itself. Footsteps scraped stone behind her. Melisandre did not turn. "Lord of Dragonstone," she said, voice neither soft nor sharp, but iron-sure. "The hour shifts." Stannis Baratheon halted 3 paces away, his cloak snapping in the gust that whipped across the parapet. "The hour shifts," he echoed, as though the words were sour fruit on his tongue. "You've seen something. In the flames." She opened her eyes. "Not what I expected, yet what must be." "Tell me," Stannis commanded. He spoke as a king who had yet to win his throne, as a man who believed the world owed him justice for its slights. But there was hunger, too, a gnawing neediness beneath the iron plate of duty that only she ever acknowledged. "The prince that was promised," she said, "comes of a king's blood, yet he is not seated in hall or castle. He toils at a mage's forge, unknowing of the fire in his veins." Stannis's jaw clenched. "Another bastard? A seed beneath ash," Melisandre answered. "If left untended, it withers. If nurtured, it bears fruit enough to end the long night." Far to the west, dawn crept over King's Landing in thin gray strands. The streets still smelled of sour wine and tallow candles guttered out during the night's revels. Gendry Waters rose before the other apprentices, as he always did, because the forge in Tobo Mott's shop demanded early devotion. He shoveled the last of the embers aside, stirring new coal until the coals glowed dragon breath red. The heat licked at his calloused palms. Sweat gathered at his brow. Yet he smiled, for this was the hour he loved best, when metal lay docile and the clang of his hammer rang truer than any temple bell. He remembered no mother, and his father might have been any drunk who had tossed a coin at a whore, yet here, before anvil and crucible, he made himself anew with every stroke. A bastard he might be, but steel cared nothing for bastardy. Steel asked only strength, and Gendry possessed strength in abundance. By the time the other boys stumbled and yawning, he had drawn out 3 lengths of half-finished sword, the blades golden in the forge light. Master Mott inspected them, sniffed, and nodded his grudging approval. "You'll be a smith of repute, boy, if lashed pride does not break your back first." Pride? Gendry thought. Pride was all he had, yet he ducked his head. "Yes, master." He did not see the quiet man in crimson robes who slipped through the shop's door as afternoon waxed. The man watched him shape a dagger's fuller, blue eyes studying every twist of his wrist. When the work paused, the stranger approached. "A fine hand," he murmured. Gendry shrugged, uncomfortable. "Work is work. Work is worship," the man corrected. "To craft is to touch the divine." He reached for the half-cooled dagger. The steel hissed under a drip of oil. "Your master tells me this blade is yours alone, from or to quenched edge. Such skill in one so young." He smiled. "What is your name?" Gendry shifted. "Just Gendry." "Gendry?" The stranger tasted the syllables as if measuring them. "There is iron in that name and fire beneath. I am Thuras, priest of the Lord of Light." The title meant nothing to Gendry, though he'd heard whispers of fire priests arriving from the east. "My lord," he offered awkwardly. "Not lord, only servant." Thuras traced a thumb over the dagger's flat. "Tell me, Gendry, have you ever seen visions in flame?" Gendry snorted. "I see sparks, that's all." "True sparks," Thuras chuckled, "may set the world aflame." He turned but paused. "The wall freezes. Shadows stir. The Lord's chosen will need a smith's courage. If a road opens, will you walk it?" Gendry wiped sweat from his brow. "A road's a road." Thuras nodded, as if the answer satisfied some private puzzle, and departed without further word. By nightfall, Gendry half forgot the encounter, losing himself in steel once more. On Dragonstone, the sea bathed the island in moonlight glazed silver. Melisandre knelt before the stone throne beside the unlit fireplace. Ser Davos Seaworth lingered in the hall's shadowed margin, frowning beneath his salt-streaked beard. He distrusted the Red Woman's silences more than her speeches. "My king," she said, graceful as falling ash. "Send me to King's Landing." Stannis paced. "The city stands against me. Joffrey claims my throne. The Lannister girl remains wed to the false stag." "False stags breed false stags," Melisandre murmured. "But true fire beats in bastards' hearts." Davos stiffened. "You mean Edric Storm?" Melisandre's gaze fell upon Davos, ruby gleaming. "No, the flames name another, born not in stone drum but in alehouse straw. His hammer will crack the darkness." Davos swallowed. "What is the lad's name?" "Gendry." Recognition flickered across Stannis's rigid features. "I recall that name. A boy with black hair, serving under Mott." He exhaled. "Robert's blood." "King's blood," Melisandre agreed. "Blood enough to wake dragons in stone. If need be, yet greater purpose awaits him." Stannis's voice rumbled like granite grinding. "I will not yield my destiny to a whelp." "Nor must you," she answered smoothly. "The Lord chooses instruments, some to shatter, some to forge. You are the hammer that opens the path. He is the sword that will strike in your name." Davos stepped forward, shadow swallowing half his face. "You speak of sacrifice again." "Sacrifice is life," Melisandre said. "But not all sacrifices end in ash. Some end in sunrise." Her words coiled around Stannis's doubts like chains of living flame. At last he nodded once, brusque. "Go. Bring me the boy." Melisandre stood. "He will come as the dawn comes, reluctant at first, inevitable in the end." 2 nights later, the narrow sea heaved beneath a black-hulled galley bearing no banners. Cabin lanterns glowed crimson, painting the sails with ghost fires. Melisandre stood at the prow, watching stars drown in cloud. She did not sleep. Sleep belonged to those who feared darkness. The Lord of Light dwelled even here, in rolling waters where lanterns died and men prayed to any god who might hear. She breathed, and on the breath tasted destiny's copper tang. When fog kissed the deck, she murmured a spell and the mist parted, revealing low clifftops ahead. Maiden's Walk, eastern approach to the Blackwater. King's Landing's towers waited beyond, their lights flickering like dying fireflies. On shore, Thuras guided his horse along a forest path towards the city's mud gate. Beside him rode Beric Dondarrion, the lightning bolt sewn across his faded cloak. The Brotherhood without banners had slipped into King's Landing under Night's cloak, answering rumors of small folk seized for the dungeons. War bled every corner of the realm, and no king spared coin for the poor. They had ridden past butchered men hanging from gates. Thieves or traitors, who could say? Inside the mud gate's shadowed arch, torchlight gleamed off mail coats. Guards thumped pikes, demanding names. Ser Emmerich of the Marches, Beric lied with the ease of practice. Returning from Dragonstone's siege. And your priest, a guard's torch lifted, catching Thuris's crimson robe. Ransoming a sinner's soul, Thuris said cheerfully, flashing a wineskin. The guards, content with bribes, liquid and copper alike, waved them through. The city smelled of night soil and roasting onions. Thuris pointed toward the street of steel. The boy will be at Mott's forge. He works late. Beric's single eye gleamed beneath his charred helm. Robert's bastard. What's your aim? Thuris's grin softened. Perhaps the Lord's aim, not mine. Gendry quenched a helm in oil, watching bubbles swirl like black eyes breaking the surface. The shop lay silent. Even Master Mott had retired. The forge's glow lulled him. He set the helm aside, flexing his aching shoulders. Tomorrow he would fit antler crests, an order for Lord Baelish's household knights. Antlers always fell wrong when hammered thin. They split like fragile bone. He frowned, turning the helm to inspect the rim. A soft scrape of boots on stone made him spin. Two men emerged from the shadows. One bore a patchwork cloak, the other a measure of wine-damp cheer and crimson robes. You again, Gendry said, relaxing a fraction. Thuris, wasn't it? Aye. Thuris lifted the wineskin in salute. I bring a friend. Beric Dondarrion, the taller man said, offering a gloved hand. Gendry stared. He knew the name. A lord once sent north to bring Gregor Clegane to justice, said to have died and risen. What do you want? Beric glanced at Thuris, then back. You, Gendry scowled. I've coin enough for ale. No more. Thuris stepped closer. Not to rob you, lad. To protect you. Ears whisper your bloodline across tavern benches. The queen hears whispers, too. Bastards of Robert Baratheon have met ill ends of late. Gendry felt cold despite the forge. He had heard rumors. Black-haired babes snatched from wet nurses, stable hands gone missing. Master Mott had warned him not to flaunt his looks. I have work. Gendry's voice cracked on stubbornness. The shop needs me. The realm needs you more, Beric said quietly. There are fires beyond the trident greater than any forge. You've the arm of a bull and a heart fit for storms. Come, we ride tonight. Gendry swallowed. He thought of the streets outside. Knives in shadows, gold cloaks dragging children from beds. He thought of the antlers he would feather edge by dawn, sold to knights who cared nothing for the smith's toil. He set down his hammer, feeling its weight leave his soul. All right, they left by a side door. No one saw them vanish into night. Dusk the next day, a skiff slid beneath stone walls where the Blackwater met the harbor. Sailors spoke Valyrian, steering the vessel with quiet efficiency. Melisandre stood amidships, her gaze fixed upriver. A gull shrieked overhead, wheeling against a sky bruised purple. The wind tasted of smoke. Dock fires, tanneries, and distant battlefields where corpses smoldered. She saw them first, 3 riders descending the southern bluff, hooves muffled on sandy soil. At their head, a youth sat uncertainly upon a rangy gelding. Black hair curled damp across his brow. A smith's hammer hung from his saddle. Melisandre's heart quickened. When the skiff nosed ashore, Thuris hailed her, dismounting. We found him, but the gold cloaks sniff our trail. Let them, she answered. Shadows cover us. Gendry swung off his horse, eyes narrowing at the sight of her. He had seen red priests before, but never one who glowed as though a second sun shone inside her. Who are you? Your servant. The reply stunned him. She bowed her head. I am Melisandre of Azor, chosen of R'hllor. The flames name you Azor Ahai reborn. Gendry blinked. Azor who? Thuras chuckled. A hero of old. A myth, some say. More than myth, Melisandre said. She stepped closer. Show me your hands. Confused, Gendry lifted them. Scarred knuckles. Burn-marked fingers from molten iron's kisses. She traced a fingertip along his palm lines. Sparks danced between skin. You forged steel, she murmured. Yet you must forge night itself into dawn. She turned to Thuras. Bring us a blade, tempered and quenched. Thuras produced Gendry's own work. The dagger the boy had shaped that very morning, its edge oiled but unfinished. Strike the earth, Melisandre told Gendry. He hesitated. Why? To wake the world to you. He shrugged, raised the dagger, and buried the point in the damp sand. Sparks flew, impossible, for sand should quench flame, yet tiny comets erupted where metal met shore. The sparks spun skyward, forming a circle of red motes that hovered before Gendry's face. They swirled, merging, and for a heartbeat, a sword of living fire hovered above the blade. Then it winked out. The beach lay dark again, and the dagger's edge glowed faint ember orange. Gendry swore softly, shaken. Beric muttered a prayer. Thuras's grin faded into uneasy reverence. Melisandre lifted the glowing dagger, holding it by the blade though it should have scalded skin. Lightbringer will be born through trial, forged thrice in living fire. This was but the first forging. She offered the hilt to Gendry. Will you bear it? He accepted, palm closing around the leather grip. The steel cooled at his touch, as though recognizing its master. If it keeps me alive, he said, half-jest. It will keep the realm alive, Melisandre whispered. Come. Dragonstone awaits. They set sail under a moonless sky. Gendry leaned against the gunwale, watching waves slap the hull. Sea spray salted his lips. Everything he had known lay behind. Forge fires, the street of steel, the familiar rhythm of hammer on anvil. Ahead, a fortress loomed on a jagged island, lit by faint torches that gleamed like rubies in basalt sockets. Melisandre joined him. You fear, she said. Yet fear is a forge too. I'm a smith, he muttered. Not a lord. And not this Azor. Azor Ahai, she corrected gently. A name is not a crown. It is a blade. Learn to wield it. Gendry studied her profile, hair flaming in starlight. Why me? Robert had bastards all over Flea Bottom. The Lord chooses. She did not elaborate. Steel is common, Valyrian steel rarer. But Lightbringer will outshine both. He huffed. I make good swords, sure, but not magical ones. You shall, she promised. 3 forges. 3 sacrifices. Gendry's jaw tightened. Sacrifices. All creation demands cost. Her voice was a lullaby and a dirge in one. Fire takes, yet it gives more. He looked away, heart thudding. The dagger at his belt felt heavier than unlabeled guilt. Dragonstone greeted them with sulfur stink and gull screams. Stannis met them in the courtyard, flanked by knights whose armor bore no sigil save the fiery heart of the Red God. Wind tugged his cloak. Candlelight carved harsh lines across his face. He measured Gendry with cool blue eyes. So this is the bastard, he said. Gendry bristled. Name's Gendry. Davos stepped forward, expression kind. Welcome, lad.
I'm Davos Seaworth.
He offered a weathered hand. Gendry shook it, surprised by gentleness amid stone. Stannis turned to Melisandre. Can he do what you claim? In time, she said. His blood sings. Blood sings in battle, Stannis growled. I need deeds, not songs. Melisandre's eyes narrowed, though her smile remained. Deeds require forging. She glanced at Gendry. The first forge was sand and spark. The second awaits beneath Dragonstone. The castle's bowels ran deep, carved tunnels where heat seeped through the rock like dragons breathing in restless slumber. Melisandre led them down winding stairs lit by ruddy crystals embedded in walls. At the lowest vault, a natural cavern opened, its ceiling lost to shadow. A flow of molten stone trickled through a fissure, splashing into a pool that glimmered orange gold. Gendry wiped sweat. The air tasted of brimstone. Each breath rasped his throat. At the pool's edge lay an ancient anvil, veined with obsidian. Chains of black iron hung from ceiling hooks, relic shackles for long-dead dragons. Melisandre gestured. Here, Lightbringer must be tempered anew. Your hammer will shape it, but only blood will quench it. Gendry frowned, understanding dawning. Whose blood? She regarded him. Blood close to your heart. He stiffened. I've none. No family. Family may be forged, she said softly, just as steel, yet a heart chooses kin of spirit. She placed a hand over her ruby. I will serve as vessel. Davos, standing at the threshold, protested. My lady, I fear no pain, Melisandre said. The Lord's fire sustains me. Strike true. She produced the glowing dagger. Its edge had cooled to dull gray since the shore. Melt it in the lava's kiss, then draw it forth at white heat. Gendry's stomach churned. He had quenched blades in water, oil, even snow. But blood? He stared into her calm eyes, then at Davos's pale face. Do it, Stannis barked. If this makes him what you claim, do it. Hands trembling, Gendry thrust the dagger into the molten pool. Lava hissed, swallowing the steel. Seconds crawled like years. When he pulled it free, the blade glowed white, edges dripping liquid fire. He turned to Melisandre. She opened her arms. Strike my heart. Gendry hesitated, dread churning with a smith's instinct for timing. He raised the dagger, aiming for the ruby. With a shout, he plunged it in. The gem shattered. Blood burst like scarlet vapor. But instead of dying, Melisandre burst into flame. Her body wreathed in living fire, yet her face remained serene, eyes blazing gold. The fire raced down the blade into Gendry's arms, searing flesh without burn. The dagger lengthened, metal stretching, reshaping, until a long sword of gleaming red gold emerged, inscriptions like dancing shadows along the fuller. Melisandre's flames winked out. She stood unscarred, ruby shards melting into her skin and reforming whole. She smiled, triumphant. The second forging is done. Exhaustion flooded Gendry. He dropped to one knee, sword point clanging upon obsidian. Davos hurried forward, but Melisandre raised a hand. He must kneel to rise anew. Stannis' eyes shone with covetous wonder. Lightbringer. He reached. The sword flared, forcing him back, pain scoring his palm. Only the chosen may wield it, Melisandre said. King's blood, yet king unmade. Gendry gazed at the blade. Flames licked its edge like hungry tongues. Inside its glow, he saw faces. Small folk huddled against winter, soldiers freezing on the wall, shadows stirring beyond snowbound trees. He saw the Night's King riding a dead dragon across stormy stars. Terror clawed him, but Pose steadied his grip. He rose. What now? Now, Melisandre whispered. You learn to be legend. Word of the Red Woman's newest miracle spread through Dragonstone like wildfire through dry grass. Some knights knelt when Gendry passed. Others spat at mention of bastard sorcery. Davos watched, uneasy. Stannis grew more withdrawn, locked in strategy chambers consulting grim maesters about fleets and sieges. Gendry spent days in the castle's small yard, practicing footwork under Ser Roland's storm. A bastard knight once scorned for his birth, now keen to teach another of like station. At night, Melisandre summoned him to the fiery heart of the castle, guiding meditation before cauldrons of glowing coals. She taught him Ahai words that tasted of iron on his tongue, and prayers to a god who answered only through pain. One evening, as he cooled Lightbringer in a trough after drills, Davos approached. That sword, it drinks heat like a sponge. Never saw its like. Gendry wiped sweat. I didn't ask for it. Few of us ask for what the gods give. Davos's tone softened. I once smuggled onions. Now I'm a knight and a king's hand. Do you trust her, Melisandre? Davos sighed. rubbing the scuffed finger bones hanging at his neck. I trust what I see. She burns, yet she rises. But I'd rather trust a man's word than a flame's whisper. Gendry stared at the sword's edge, red light dancing. If I'm to be this hero, people will die for me. Or because of you, Davos said quietly. That is the weight of blades. Gendry swallowed. She said 3 sacrifices. 2 are done. What's the third? Davos's brow furrowed. Best hope it's not worse than the first 2. Months passed. Stannis's banners marched north, bearing flaming hearts beside crowned stags. Melisandre rode with Gendry at the head of a column bound for the wall. Snow fell thick, muffling hoofbeats. Lightbringer shed warmth that melted flakes before they brushed his cloak. Wildling raiders fled at the sword's glow, whispering of fire spirits come to devour them. At Castle Black, Jon Snow met them with weary eyes. He had returned from beyond the wall scarred by betrayal and frozen nights. When Gendry dismounted, Jon saw a smith's build and a warrior's fire in equal measure. Bastard brothers, Davos quipped. Jon cracked a faint smile. That night, Melisandre watched from a tower as Gendry and Jon shared ale by hearth. She felt the third forge drawing near. Ice and fire, bastards born of fallen lords, both written in the flames. Yet only one could stand within Lightbringer's final tempers. She closed her eyes, seeing snow dunes lit by blue moonlight, armies of the dead marching. A heart of ice must melt in fire, or the dawn would never come. Her lips formed a silent prayer, and the ruby at her throat glowed like sunrise trapped in blood. East of the wall, the Night King gathered his legions. White winds howled across the frostfangs, carrying whispers of a sword burning brighter than dragon flame. In sockets of ice, the other's eyes glittered. They had waited centuries for one to challenge their reign. Now, they stirred, eager for the long silence of death to swallow song. A raven landed upon the wall's battlements, feathers rimed with frost, eyes black as midnight seas. Croaked once, twice. Jon Snow untied the scroll from its leg. Winterfell's sigil sealed the wax, a dire wolf howling at a starless sky. He read, face paling. My sister writes of armies massing near the twins. The Boltons gather power. Gendry leaned over the parchment, his hammer calluses smudged ink. If the north falls to traitors, the wall stands alone. Melisandre touched Lightbringer's hilt. The sword demands a northern quench. Jon looked at her, mistrustful. You speak in riddles, my lady. Truth is a riddle, she replied, but answers break in blood. They rode out at dawn, a small company of black cloaks and red cloaks together. Snow choked the King's Road. Progress crawled. Wolves prowled the edges of torchlight. At the Queen's Crown ruins, they sheltered in a barn grown brittle with age. Fires sputtered. Horses stamped frost from hooves. Gendry shared a blanket with Jon, steam rising from their breath. You ever feel like we're all pieces in someone else's smithy? He asked. Jon stared at the dying fire. All my life, bastard of Winterfell, steward of the Watch, hostage to wildlings. Now maybe a pawn to kings. Melisandre says I'm Azor Ahai, hero forged 3 times. But I don't feel like a hero, just a scared lad with a fancy sword. Jon chuckled softly. Fancy swords don't win wars alone. Men do. He shifted, looking Gendry in the eye. But men follow symbols. If Lightbringer gives them hope, wield it well. Gendry nodded. And if hope demands sacrifice? Jon's gaze drifted to the sleeping forms around them. Then pray the cost isn't paid in friends. 2 days later, scouts sighted Bolton banners over the horizon. Flayed men rippling crimson against white hills. Snow muffled the beat of drums, but thunder rolled in men's chests. Jon Snow drew Longclaw. Its Valyrian ripples shimmered. Gendry unsheathed Lightbringer. Flames erupted along the blade, casting orange dawn across bleak land. Even hardened crows gasped at its radiance. Melisandre lifted her hands, chanting in Old Tongue. Fire sprang from footprints, forming a blazing line behind their ranks. The Boltons hesitated, horses rearing. Yet Ramsay's cruelty brooked no retreat. Whips cracked, and the line advanced. Steel met steel. Snow turned to slush under spilt blood. Gendry fought beside Jon, hammering foes with Lightbringer's edge. Each stroke sent embers swirling, cauterizing wounds as they formed. Men screamed, blinded by flame, before falling still. Jon's sword cut cleaner, wolf swift. Together they carved a path toward Ramsay's banner. Davos rallied knights watch archers. Arrows ignited mid-flight, torching Bolton shields. Davos wondered if the Lord of Light guided his aim now, or if desperate men found gods in fire because cold made any warmth a miracle. Amid chaos, Ramsay sighted Lightbringer and knew fear. He bellowed for crossbows to target the red-haired witch at the rear. Bolts flew. Melisandre turned, raising a hand. Fire blossomed, incinerating wood and iron alike. But in that instant, a single arrow, fletched black, slipped the fiery shield and found her throat. The ruby detonated scarlet shards. Gendry felt it. The sword pulsed, screaming through marrow. He whirled, seeing Melisandre crumple. Her eyes met his once, bright as twin suns, then dimmed. Blood steamed on snow. Rage swallowed sorrow. Gendry charged, Lightbringer blazing until the very air shimmered. He reached Ramsay, who loosed a spear. The tip melted before touching armor. Gendry cleaved him in twain, a furnace roar masking the butcher's shriek. When silence fell, snowbanks hissed, dotted with glassy pools of melted ice. Bolton banners smoldered. Survivors knelt or fled. Jon's face dripped sweat and grief. Davos stood over Melisandre's body, eyes filming. The third sacrifice, Gendry realized. She had broken her own promise. Sacrifices unasked are the deepest cut. Lightbringer cooled in his hand, its glow settling to a warm sunset hue. A hush spread. Knights watch brothers and northern soldiers alike gathered around him. Their breath plumed gold in the sword's reflection. Jon cleaned Longclaw and placed a gauntlet hand on Gendry's shoulder. "We'll carry her north to burn. Fire was her life." Gendry nodded, throat tight. He looked west. Beyond those hills, the wall waited, and beyond the wall, death marched. The sword felt lighter now. No, he was heavier. Every ember within it was a memory, a promise of dawn paid for in blood. They burned Melisandre atop a pyre of weirwood branches. Her body ignited before the torches touched, as though eager for flame's embrace. In the firelight, Gendry swore an oath to never let her death be empty. As the pyre collapsed, Davos murmured to Jon, "A sword forged thrice. Beach sand, dragon stone, and a witch's heart. The prophecy is sated." Jon watched sparks spiral skyward. Prophecies satisfy themselves. We still have a war. Yes. Davos's eyes drifted to Gendry. But perhaps we have a chance. South of the neck, riders carried rumors like fever, of a bastard smith brandishing a fireblade, of Bolton horror ended in flame, of red priests rising and falling. Queens choked on fear. Lords plotted new banners. Yet far north, an icy moon hung low over frozen plains, and in its pale glow, cadaverous armies marched toward the wall. Atop a ridge, the Night King paused, sensing the forging complete. He tilted his ancient helm, listening to distant thunder, heartbeat of flame. In his skeletal fist, he clenched a spear of black ice. With a gesture, he urged ranks onward. Dawn would break upon their shields, but they would quench it in eternal night. Gendry stood upon the wall's heights, Lightbringer balanced across his shoulders like a smith's hammer before the strike. Snow whipped around him, swirling in mad eddies around the blade's quiet glow. Below, torches bobbed as men readied boiling oil and dragonglass arrows. Jon Snow approached, cloak snapping. "The war comes tonight or in 10 nights, no telling with shadows. But come it will." Gendry nodded. "Let it." He looked east, imagining the molten pool beneath Dragonstone, where steel met brimstone, where Melisandre bled light. He felt each forge in his bones. The hiss of sand, the roar of lava, the scream of ruby shattering. Lightbringer pulsed once, twice like a second heartbeat. Jon clasped his forearm. "Brother, brother." Above them, a cold star flickered. Beneath, the realm held its breath between sigh and storm. Light and darkness gathered, two forges facing a final hammerfall. And amid it all, a bastard boy stood ready. Not king, not lord, but a smith who had learned to shape destiny's cruelest metal, hope. The wind over the wall tasted of frozen iron and old bones. It cut deeper than any forge's chill quench, sliding beneath furs and boiled leather, turning breath to pale vapors that drifted between the rampart's merlins like half-formed ghosts. Gendry leaned his elbows upon the ice-slick crenellation and watched the black ribbon of the King's Road vanish south beneath a smear of low clouds. Lightbringer rested point down beside him, its blade no longer flaming yet warm enough that the ice around the tip had melted into a puddle that steamed in the moonlight. He closed his eyes and listened, really listened, for the first time in days. Boots crunched in drifts along the walkway. Ravens croaked in their cages. Somewhere below, barrels of lamp oil rattled as they were hauled into position. But beyond those mundane sounds thrummed another rhythm, the heartbeat of the sword in cadence with his own, the steady drum of something vast stirring behind the distant tree-line, a shiver in the marrow of the world. Jon Snow approached from the eastern stair. His cloak, black as a starless night, trailed slivers of frost that glittered like shattered glass before the low torches. He joined Gendry wordlessly, folding gloved hands atop the parapet. The silence between them was not uneasy. It was the heavy hush of men who shared burden enough to render talk almost trite. Only after a dozen heartbeats did Jon speak. "They reached Mole's Town at dusk," he said, voice low, as though names spoken too loudly might summon doom faster. "Ghost returned an hour ago. Empty, every burrow and alehouse." Gendry kept his gaze north. How far behind the emptiness? A day, maybe two. Hard to measure when the snow swallows tracks the moment they fall. A dull orange glow momentarily brightened the sky to the northwest. At first Gendry feared another vision, but Jon relaxed, so he did as well. "The burn pits," Jon explained, reading his thought. "We torch what game the rangers drag back. Better ash than whites." Gendry nodded. Flames were friend and foe now. Fire cleansed corpses so they would not rise. Yet the same fire could reveal their positions to eyes like pale moons in the darkness. "Sam's ravens returned from Winterfell," Jon continued. "Sansa pledged stores of grain and 1,000 spears. They're marching up the King's Road, but snows slow them. Tormund's free folk hold the gift farms. Yet arrows alone won't stop what's coming." Gendry studied the vast white beyond the wall. "Lightbringer will help." Even as he said it, doubt flickered. A single sword, no matter how bright, could not carve through an endless night. Yet Melisandre's final breath had wrapped itself around the steel. He felt her presence. No, not the woman, but the purpose she embodied. Hope as hot as magma. Jon traced a gloved finger across a seam where ancient ice met patched stone. Repairs made by masons dead 100 generations. "The wall's strong," he murmured. But strength cracks under weight enough. As if summoned, the night answered with a distant boom, low and monstrous, as though an enormous drum were being struck by a frozen god's hammer. The ice beneath their boots vibrated. Torches guttered in the sudden gust. Shouts echoed from sentries along the eastern rampart. Jon drew Longclaw, Valyrian steel singing in the frigid air. "They test us." Gendry lifted Lightbringer free of its melting pool. "Let them." The blade's fuller flickered from deep red to molten gold and back, like lungs taking breath. Dawn did not so much break as seep, a sluggish bruise of pewter light creeping across the horizon. The world below remained mostly dark, yet enough gray seeped through to show the deep forest stretching like a sea of black spears. Jon ordered lanterns along the ring fort at Castle Black to be dimmed. Only the signal tower burned brightly, beacon for allies still straggling south of the Shadow Tower or east through Skirling Pass. Inside the old council chamber, maps weighted with daggers spread across the table. Samwell Tarly bent over the largest parchment, a rough chart of northern approaches sketched hastily by rangers who'd not lived to refine it. He pushed spectacles up his nose, breath smoking. "Here," he said, finger trembling at wavy ink lines. "Fist of the first men." The others gather there, as if remembering old wrongs. Gendry glanced from Sam to Jon. "How many?"
Sam's shoulders sagged.
"Thousands of undead, at least, maybe tens. And everywhere they march, more bodies join." Jon paced. His footfalls echoed like hammers in a crypt. "I'd hoped they'd come straight for the wall. Facing them over our parapets gives us height and fire advantage. But if they mass at the Fist, they could flank east to Queen's Crown ruins, then follow White Tree's creek bed," Davos supplied, tapping a scarred knuckle against the map. "Avoiding watchfires until they're almost beneath the wall's weakest buttress." Edison Tollett, acting Lord Commander in Jon's absence, grunted. "Odds are they simply surge everywhere at once. Hard to outfox a dead thing that feels no fear." Gendry slid a dagger aside, revealing shadows scrawled by Melisandre the night before her death. Runes he could not read, but which she'd said would reveal the path of fire. The ink shimmered faintly, catching lantern light. Melisandre believed the final forge would occur where ice devours flame, Gendry said softly. Jon paused. "Then it lies beyond the wall." Murmurs rippled. Outrage, fear, fatalistic humor.
Davos met Gendry's case.
"You'd walk into their country? With a handful of men." Gendry felt Lightbringer warm at his hip. "Not walk," he said. "Hunt. Light hunts darkness." Sam adjusted spectacles again. "Legends say the Night King's power is strongest where winter's first tears fell. An ice lake east of the Frostfangs. The lake's surface never freezes solid, yet it never melts. Cold fire, the Skagosi call it." "Cold fire," Jon echoed. "Ice-devouring flame." He sheathed Longclaw. "Then we go there." Davos slammed a hand upon the table, rattling coins used as markers for patrols. "Madness. The wall is our best defense. Abandon it and the living die before dawn." Jon stepped close to the old smuggler. "If we wait, the wall falls. You saw Eastwatch's breach 6 nights ago. They widen cracks with every thunderpound. Our defense buys time, not victory." Silence. The flicker of candles played across hardened faces. Finally Davos exhaled. "You'll need volunteers, 10 at least, and a raven to Winterfell. Tell Lady Sansa to press north even if the snows bite." Tormund Giantsbane grinned from the doorway, red beard crusted with hoarfrost. "Thought I heard fools talk of suicides. Count me for 3 volunteers, Crow. I'm big enough." Jon's smile was grim but grateful. "We leave at sundown, small party, fast on foot. No horses to scream and bolt." "Dragon glass?" Sam asked. "Crates of spearheads stashed at the foothill watch post," Jon replied. "We'll each carry 5. Gendry spoke last. "I'll carry the forge on my back." He tapped Lightbringer. "But steel alone won't be enough." He turned to Davos. "I need a hammer." They assembled in the yard as the sun bled behind the mountains, sky painted in bruised crimson and plum. Gendry wore boiled leather armor layered over black mail. Across his back he carried a smith's hammer forged from Valyrian steel scraps smelted with dragonglass, a weapon he and Jon had shaped together over 3 sleepless nights. It felt lighter than its size should allow, eager to smash ice. Tormund hefted twin axes, each blade edge chipped but keen. Ser Dennis Mallister volunteered his bow, shoulders ramrod straight despite 60 winters. Edison Tollett quipped that if doom lay north, he'd rather meet it than wait for it to knock politely. 2 free folk archers, a silent novice of the Red Faith named Benero's Gift, and a ranger named Harwin filled out the party. Frost jeweled their beards within moments of passing through the open and shut gates at the foot of the wall's winch elevator. The world outside the watch's torches felt like the inside of a wolf's maw. Damp breath, low growl of wind, trees crouched like waiting fangs. Ghost padded ahead, red eyes bright as banked coals. For hours they trudged through knee-deep drifts, following ridges where wind scoured snow to hard crust. The moon floated behind gauzy clouds, more suggestion than light. At intervals Jon signaled halt to listen. When they resumed, footsteps crunching seemed louder, as though the hush grew offended by intrusion. They camped in a hollow ringed by wizened spruce. No fire, only a lantern shielded by an iron hood that Sam insisted dim after notes were scribbled in his weatherproof pages. Jon shared thin soup, clutching the metal bowl long after it emptied to warm his fingers. He studied Gendry across the circle. The smith's eyes blazed in lamplight, wide awake though exhaustion tugged at every limb. Dream of hammers? Jon asked quietly. Gendry shook his head. Of anvils. Hammers speak, but anvils remember. Jon frowned. Explain. Gendry seemed embarrassed. When I forged Lightbringer's second shape, I thought the blade sang. But since the third forging, it's the steel listening. I feel it storing every clash, like an anvil keeps the scars of smithy years. Jon turned the idea over. Scars teach steel to be strong. Maybe the sword learns us. A wry smile cracked Gendry's chapped lips. Let's hope it learns fast. Tormund belched quietly. Swords, hammers, bah. Give me a good club and a prettier woman come spring. He glanced at Sam. You point that quill at me, I'll pluck its feather. Sam shut his notebook and managed a small grin. Even Doom could not completely snuff Teach. Free folk giants' crude humor. They slept in shifts. Gendry's dreams were red-litten nightmares. Melisandre's face melting into the Night King's. Jon kneeling in snow-bleeding shadows. Lightbringer breaking like glass. Each shard sprouting black roots that wrapped the world. He woke drenched in sweat that froze to salt crystals before he wiped them free. By dawn, they were moving again, climbing icy switchbacks into the foothills of the Frostfangs. The air smelled different, burnt cold, as though some vast forge operated on glaciers instead of coal. Midway up a ridge, Ghost halted, hackles rising. The direwolf's low growl vibrated like a bowstring. Jon raised a fist. All stopped. Snowflakes spiraled lazily between quiet trunks. In that stillness, Gendry heard something new. A faint tink-tink, like icicles falling onto marble.
Sam mau da prer.
Tormund angled his axes. It fitted an arrow. Out of the blur between two pines lurched a figure wearing tatters of a black cloak, icicles dangling from its beard. Eyes, once human, glowed unnatural blue. Its jaw hinged, but the sound emerging was a brittle scream of broken glass. Harwin loosed a dragonglass-tipped bolt. The arrow skewered the wight's brow. It dropped mid-stride, shards of ice skittering from its cracked skull. The ground beneath them answered with rumbling. Trees shook, sending cascades of snow onto the party. A second figure appeared, then a dozen. Rangers dead months ago, wildlings lost in blizzards, small folk from abandoned villages. Blue eyes, empty hearts. Jon shouted, "Hold formation!" Gendry swung Lightbringer. Flame ignited along the edge, ripping the gloom apart. He cleaved through the nearest corpse, slicing it from shoulder to hip. The two halves smoldered, blackening as if draped over coals. Tormund's axes rose and fell in red arcs, splintering bone thicker than oak. Sam, trembling but resolute, drove a dragonglass dagger into a reaching farmer's chest. The body staggered, then collapsed, flesh crackling. Yet for every wight felled, two more shambled forth. They poured from the forest like ants disturbed, silent but for the clack of frozen sinew. Too many, Ed shouted, loosing arrows that puffed to steam when blades of flame licked them near Lightbringer. Retreat east, Jon ordered. Keep tight. They backed up the slope, stabbing, hacking. Snow churned underfoot, crimson slush mixing with gray ash. Atop the ridge, the ground leveled into a wide shelf overlooking a narrow valley. White plain broken by one dark ribbon. Water unfrozen, shining like polished obsidian even in pale light.
Sam gasped.
The cold fire lake. We've reached it. It glanced behind. Lovely.
No boats.
Gendry drove Lightbringer down in a great arc, splitting three wights in half. We make our stand here, he said through grit teeth. Jon reached his side, parrying a skeletal ranger's sword. Or we finish the forge. He glanced toward the lake. Ice devours flame. Sword devours night. A new presence manifested on the far lip of the valley. Tall, robed in rime, face a mask of carven glacier. The Night King. His crown of jagged horned ice shimmered as he raised one arm. The whites ceased their advance, forming a ragged semicircle, an audience to judgment. Silence swallowed wind, breath, blood. Only the quiet crackle of Lightbringer's flame could be heard. The Night King stepped forward, each footfall leaving hoarfrost that slithered like snakes. In his hand coalesced a spear of translucent ice, edges serrated. He leveled it at Gendry. Gendry felt a pull, as if gravity itself now aligned through that spear point. Lightbringer vibrated, hunger answering challenge. Jon placed a steadying hand on Gendry's shoulder. Together, Tormund huffed, wiping gore from his beard. "You two dance. I'll kill any who cut in." The Night King advanced. Snow eddied around his cloak. His eyes were older than winter, mocking warmth with their void. Gendry strode down the slope, boots crunching.
Jon matched the pace.
They stopped 10 strides before the lake, its surface rippling without wind, emitting faint blue radiance. The Night King paused opposite. He thrust his spear into the ground, offering single combat. A gesture old as story. Jon raised Longclaw. Gendry raised Lightbringer. The Night King drew a sword of black ice, edges misting pale vapor. He stepped forward. Steel and ice met with a clang that sounded like church bells being strangled. Longclaw shattered on impact, breaking into shards that dissolved to white dust midair. Jon staggered back, shock on his face. The Night King's follow-through arced toward Gendry. Lightbringer intercepted. The collision erupted in a corona of orange and blue flame. The Night King's blade screamed, cracks spiderwebbing along its length. He recoiled, eyes narrowing infinitesimally. Gendry pressed. Each strike left streaks of molten glow across the enemy's blade, melting grooves into ice that healed slower and slower. But each parry numbed Gendry's arm. The cold of that weapon seeped through Lightbringer's hilt like poison frost. Azure sparks danced where flame met ice, and each spark hissed into steam that froze midair into glassy motes. Gendry gasped. His breath crystallized instantly and slashed his lungs with needles. Jon recovered, sweeping up a dragonglass spear from the ground. He lunged, planting its tip into the Night King's flank. The shaft snapped, but frost blossomed along the ancient fiend's side, delaying his next swing. Gendry exploited the opening. He hammered Lightbringer down onto the cracked ice sword. With a high keening, a cry almost human. The blade exploded, shards flying outward like shards of night shattered. The Night King stumbled, unarmed. Yet he lifted empty hands, and the frozen lake behind him surged upward, water and ice twisting into a replacement weapon larger than the first. Heat fled the valley. Gendry felt marrow chill so sharply his teeth rang. Blood would slow, breath would fail. He thought of anvils, steadfast, immovable. He thought of Melisandre's words, "Some end in sunrise." He turned to Jon. "My blood forged this sword. Yours feeds it." Jon blinked. "My king's blood," Gendry growled. "Targaryen through Lyanna." Jon's eyes widened at the revelation, but the moment for shock was short. He extended his left arm without hesitation. "Do it," Gendry slashed, shallow but sure. Jon's blood, dark red, steaming, splashed across Lightbringer's fuller. The blade drank, roaring to sudden incandescence so bright all shadows vanished. The Night King raised his new weapon, but the light seared through it before it fully formed, vaporizing ice into a geyser of boiling mist. With a battle roar, Gendry spun, drawing the radiance in a full circle around him and Jon. The Night King faltered, as if a sudden weight bore him earthward. Blue fires in his eyes flickered. For the first time he seemed uncertain. Gendry charged, shoulder-checking Jon behind him. Lightbringer thrust forward, straight for the ancient heart of winter. The Night King thrust his frosted palm to intercept, but flame licked right through it, flesh burning away to crystalline dust. Lightbringer pierced the creature's chest. Cold erupted outward in a shockwave, met simultaneously by a fountain of heat. Air crackled. The Night King screamed, the sound 1,000 ice floes splitting. The scream was cut off as blaze and blizzard collided in the cavity of his ribs. A blinding flash consumed all sight. When the world returned, snow was falling gently, lazily, as if exhausted by fury. The Night King was gone.
No corpse. No armor.
Only a swirl of delicate frost patterns on the ground, melting under Lightbringer's radiant pulse. Across the ridge, every white, and there had been hundreds remaining, dropped where it stood, strings cut. Wind sighed over inert bones. Tormund wiped sweat and frost from his brow. By the hairy balls of the first giants. He looked at Gendry with new awe. You killed a nightmare. Gendry panted, still kneeling where the strike ended. Lightbringer now shone warm and steady, flame subdued, as though the sword had eaten its fill. Jon knelt beside him, clutching his wounded arm. We both did.
Sam approached, cautious.
He scanned the lake. It's still unfrozen, he whispered. But it doesn't feel wrong anymore. Ed prodded a fallen wight with his boot. Dead as winter taxes. Benero's gift, the silent novice, pressed a palm to Gendry's brow, whispering in Valyrian. Where her hand touched, the warmth from Lightbringer flowed into Gendry's skin, knitting icy burn lines across his forearm. Davos hurried up the slope, limping. The rest are fallen, every corpse within sight. Hells, even the broken ones we left behind near the Treeline. He regarded Gendry and Jon. You ended him. Gendry staggered to his feet. Snowflakes hissed into vapor on the sword's edge. One night ends. Another will rise someday. Jon, pale but resolute, met his gaze. Then we keep the forge hot. They returned to the wall 3 days later, bearing the news. Ravens flew south, east, west, carrying word that the long night's master had fallen. All along the watch rising in the world's spine, watchfires burned high not from fear but from celebration, heat to thaw hearts long frozen in dread. Gendry found himself on the parapet once more, staring toward a sunrise whose colors felt sharper, as if the world had been dipped in new paint. Snowflakes still fell because seasons had their own mind, but the flakes seemed gentler, lacking the malicious bite of endless winter. He sensed Lightbringer's hum mellow to a lullaby. The sword, too, enjoyed a dawn earned through iron. Jon joined him, fresh bandage white against black cloak. Ravens from Winterfell arrived, armies near Queen's Crown. Your victory spares them a costly march. Not my victory alone, Gendry said. Jon tilted his head. The fires show a new age. I don't know if prophecy called you prince or smith or both, but you forged hope. Gendry traced a finger along Lightbringer's guard. Melisandre gave me flame. You gave me blood. The Night King gave me reason. Jon chuckled. An odd trinity. He sobered. What now? Now? Gendry's breath plumed white. I rebuild the world like any weapon. Temper it. Sharpen it. He turned to Jon. Perhaps in Winterfell's forges. They'll need new plowshares where swords once were. Jon's eyes softened. A smith's answer. I like it. Below, Ghost padded along the rampart path, tail swishing contentedly for once. Tormund's laughter floated from the yard, blending with the clang of hammers as free folk and knights watched together repaired arrow-scarred battlements. Gendry inhaled the crisp air, feeling no ghost of frost bite his lungs. The horizon blazed gold, warming the ice at his feet until water trickled through cracks older than kingdoms. Within the sword, he felt not hunger but quiet satisfaction, the anvil's memory of labor complete. He rested Lightbringer against the parapet, letting dawn gild its surface. And as the rising sun crowned the white world with fire, he closed his eyes and simply listened to the silence of a night finally, blessedly, ended. Snowmelt dripped from the crenellations of the wall like tears long frozen finally allowed to weep. The trickles found seams between quarried blocks and cut silent paths down the colossal face of ice, vanishing into shadowed gullies that had known nothing but rime for as long as the realms of men kept memory. Gendry listened to the soft patter while he tightened the final strap of his gauntlet, the hush reminding him of spring rain in King's Landing. Except here each drop felt consecrated, holy, as though the land itself were ready to begin again. He flexed his fingers. The leather creaked but held, pliant and strong. Jon Snow stood nearby, cloak unpinned so the morning breeze could dry the last dampness from its wolf-white lining. Longclaw lay at Jon's side, reforged over 3 nights in the castle forges. Its new edge gleamed faint violet beneath layers of runic acid etching Sam had copied from ancient books. The blade no longer bore a wolf's head pommel but a crescent sun and broken crown, a nod to princes who never wanted crowns and walls that stood between dawn and dusk. Jon caught Gendry's eye. Ready? No, Gendry grinned despite the admission. But the road won't wait for me to be. A horn sounded from the yard, single clear note. Edison Tollet strode across the bailey below, issuing last-moment curses to sleepy recruits. Pack mules snorted. Iron-bound chests of dragonglass darts clinked. Sansa's relief column had arrived only hours after the Night King's fall, and though her soldiers joined the wall's garrison in hard-earned celebration, there was little time to grow complacent. Bolton stragglers haunted woodlines. Free folk refugees trickled south. And south of the Neck, the War of 5 Kings still burned like a fever no healer could break. Tormund Giantsbane emerged from the stables with Ghost trotting at his heels. The giant's beard had been braided with bright blue ribbons by a grateful washerwoman the night before. He wore the adornments unabashed. Seeing Gendry, he lifted a hand the size of a smithing pan. "Move your dainty feet, forge boy. Winterfell's halls won't warm themselves." Gendry hefted Lightbringer. Sheathing it proved useless now that the blade's heat warped any scabbard, so he slung it in a baldric lined with thin copper sheets that conducted and dispersed the warmth. He mounted the shaggy Garen assigned to him. The animal, already accustomed to Ghost's silent presence, merely flicked an ear at the hotter weight across its rider's back. The small column formed: Jon, Tormund, Sam, Davos, Ed, and a dozen spearmen from White Harbor. Behind them, sledges bore the bodies of Night's Watch brothers fallen in the fight at the lake, to be interred within the black vaults of memory. Benero's gift chanted a low benediction in Valyrian, red glass rosary clicking in her slender fingers. Gendry turned once more to the wall. Sun struck its crown, refracting into opal bands. It looked less like a fortress and more like the spine of an ancient god, bones glittering. He touched fist to heart in silent promise, then nudged his mount. Hooves crunched on fresh-packed path, and the company wound south. 2 nights later they reached Queenscrown's ruined watchtower, where shafts of evening light speared through stone-ribbed windows. Fires were built in the court, sending sparks spiraling toward starlit rafters. Sansa awaited them, steel in posture, soft sorrow in eyes. Her red hair caught the flames, framing a circlet wrought of weirwood silver around her brow. Gendry dismounted and bowed awkwardly. The last time he'd glimpsed a highborn woman so composed had been at Robert's tournament years ago, sneaking peeks while toting pails of water for armorers. Then she had been a girl among knights. Now she was warden of half a kingdom and mother wolf to thousands. Sansa's greeting was warm for Jon, formal for the rest, curious for Gendry. She studied Lightbringer a moment, seeing fire ripple beneath the metal's surface. Instead of awe, she gifted the sword a measured nod, as though appraising whether its bearer could be bargained with, trusted, or needed watching. Over spiced ale and hard bread they traded tidings. The North rejoiced at news of the Night King's end, yet dread lingered. Cersei still held King's Landing with lions and wildfire. Stannis had marched east to crack Storm's End open a second time. The Riverlands bled beneath both Freys and wolves, and rumors spread that Daenerys Targaryen was sailing from Old Volantis with cell sails, dragons circling above her masts. "Winter may break," Davos observed, rasping thumb along his salt-flecked whiskers. "Yet the realm remains in pieces. We'll start with gathering them," Sansa said. "Every piece of wheat, every spear, every child needing warmth. The Night King fed on division. We cannot allow another tyrant to do the same." Jon raised his cup in silent agreement. Later, beneath the tower's crumbly roof, Gendry found himself seated opposite Arya Stark. She had appeared from the shadows between heartbeat and breath, face half-lit by torch, eyes sharp as fresh-honed needles. The look she gave him felt like déjà vu. Vendor's daughter glancing at a street urchin, sparrow-sizing hawk. He cleared his throat. "My lady, your lady rides a horse," Arya replied, sipping honeymead. "Call me Arya." Silence pooled. Gendry remembered long nights rowing on the Blackwater. Arya's voice telling tales of monsters that lived in stone crypts and wolves 10 times as tall as men. He remembered calling her Milady to annoy her, a jest in a world gone mad. Now he could not bring the word to his tongue for fear it might break something fragile. She broke it instead, with a smile crooked as an untied bootlace. "You saved the world," they say. Her tone hinted amusement, pride, maybe relief. "Helped," he answered. "World saved itself. Humans just held the line." Arya's gaze flicked to Lightbringer at his hip. "Funny thing, I always thought the hero's sword would be slender, quick, a needle piercing the dark, not a great slab of flame. It can cut quick if needed." Gendry winked. She rolled eyes, but the tension eased. She leaned closer, voice low. "Careful with the Lion Queen. Cersei grows more desperate by the hour. Desperate animals bite hardest." "I'll keep that in mind." Arya studied him another breath, then vanished into the milling crowd, leaving him strangely lighter, as though her departure removed a weight he didn't know he carried. They rode onward in the gray hush before dawn, snowfall soft as down. Rolling hills crept toward them, dotted with broken farmsteads where drifts buried sagging roofs. At dusk of the third day, the watchfires of Winterfell winked across white fields. The castle walls had been rebuilt in recent moons. Fresh green timbers braced new stone heavier than before, giant-sized beams hauled from bare island spruce. Banners rippled. The direwolf of Stark, the merman of Manderley, the sunburst of House Karstark reborn under new, loyal lords. Above them all flew a single crimson flag bearing a hammer encircled by a blazing heart. Gendry flushed when he saw it. He had neither ordered nor asked for such honors. But the smiths and small folk of the north had decided a hero must have a sigil, and so drawn one. Sansa met him at the gate, Arya by her side. Bran, pale and distant behind carved weirwood wheels, watched with eyes that did not blink often enough. He murmured greetings, his tone half in the present, half in some wind-scoured memory of ravens and godswood roots. Days turned to weeks. Snow fell, melted, fell again, less each time. At first Gendry spent hours in the forges of Winterfell, fashioning plowshares from old spearheads, hinges from rusted breastplates, arrowheads from scrap. Children gathered in the doorway to gawk at Lightbringer, which he used sometimes to heat metal when coals grew cold. A single pass of the blade through iron sheets left them malleable as wax. Word spread that Azor Ahai himself mended broken pots for widows, and soon the smithy yard overflowed with tools, cookware, chains needing repair. He enjoyed the work. It quieted the thrum of prophecy in his skull. A hammer's rhythm could drown out the whisper that Dawn's survival must be repaid with daylight unending. He forged gifts. A new steel-ribbed boot for Hodder's giant cousin Willow. A hairpin for Lady Lyanna Mormont shaped like a bear roaring. A pair of kitchen knives for Hot Pie, who had wandered north selling meat pies stuffed with willow grouse. But politics crept even into soot-stained corners. One morning, a raven arrived bearing Stannis' sigil, letter sealed in dark wax. Sansa read it atop the battlements while fresh-thawed water pattered at her boots. She frowned, passed it to Jon. Jon passed it to Gendry. The writing was harsh, all angles. Bastard of Baratheon blood. My sword waits at storm's end. Lightbringer belongs to the rightful king per prophecy and law alike. Come south, bend knee, present the blade, and receive pardon for theft of crown property. Refuse and be declared traitor to realm and flame. Signed simply, Stannis Baratheon. Gendry folded the parchment. He wants the sword. And you, Sansa added, to prop his claim. Jon blew a slow breath. Stannis is formidable, yet his army shrinks. Many followed him for Melisandre's miracles. Without her, he needs new wonder, Arya snorted. Let him come north if he dares. Winterfell's walls held worse. But Davos, standing behind Gendry, shook his head. His grace's pride won't allow chasing a bastard across half the realm. Instead, he'll send letters like seeds until lords believe Lightbringer itself demands he rule. Bran's voice drifted from his chair, soft but certain. Oaths forged in fire break in water. Storm's end will drown if its lord clings too tightly. No one replied. Such prophecies were best left unprodded. Weeks later, news arrived that Dragonstone had fallen to Queen Daenerys without a fight. Castle garrison starving, fleet gone. Her dragons circled the painted towers like living banners. Tales said the eldest beast, Drogon, was blacker than midnight and bigger than Balyrion's skull. She invited lords to parley under terms of peace and grain. Refugees poured to Maidenpool wearing the red three-headed dragon pinned with barley stalks. And in the Reach, Sam reported by Raven, Highgarden's new lord had pledged to furnish wagons of fresh wheat in exchange for Night's Watch honey mead. The world's debts rewriting themselves overnight. One crisp afternoon, Gendry found Arya in the Godswood, sparring alone. She danced between roots, blade glinting as fast as a swallow's turn. He waited until she stilled, sweat shining along her brow. She did not act surprised to see him. It was hard to catch her unawares. I forged something, he said, extending a bundle wrapped in black silk. She blinked but accepted it. Unwrapping revealed a slender sword, rippled like moonlit water, crossguard carved into interlocking wolves. She drew it, the weight balanced perfectly in her narrow grip. Valyrian, mostly, resmelted broken pieces from Longclaw's first form, mixed with northern iron. I call it Brightfang. Arya smiled. A small, real smile unguarded by masks. She tested a flurry of thrusts. The blade sang, "It's beautiful. Not half so as its wielder." He regretted the words at once, fearing presumption, but Arya only arched a brow. "Flatter a wolf," she warned, "and she might chew your arm to test if the compliment tastes true." Gendry grinned. "Chew away. I've others." Her smile deepened, then faded as she sheathed Brightfang. "I leave at dawn. South. Riverlands first. The twins. Someone must remind Walder Frey's sons what a debt unpaid smells like. Then maybe King's Landing. Cersei still has enemies who lost their faces." Gendry's gut tightened. "I could come." She shook her head gently. "The prophecy needs its smith here. Stannis stirs. Daenerys unknown. Sansa steadies the north, but fire keeps hearths bright. And you are fire." He stepped closer, the Godswood's red leaves whispering. "Take a flame with you." He pressed a small dagger into her palm, blade patterned in copper scarlet whorls. Dragonglass core. It heats when you press the pommel, only for a few breaths, but enough. Arya closed fingers around it. "You think of everything." "Not everything," he confessed. "Only what I fear losing." Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, the world hushed. Then Ghost padded between trunks, nosed Arya's leg. The moment shifted. She sheathed the dagger inside her boot. "Riverlands beckon." She kissed his cheek, swift as Brightfang's thrust, then vanished along the path half hidden by snow-dusted weirwood leaves. Gendry touched the warmth she left behind. Fire was comfort. Fire was pain. Sometimes both. That night, dreams plagued him. Visions unlike the Forge's calm illusions. He saw Storm's End battered by breakers that climbed walls like hungry giants. Stannis pacing its halls, crown of red gold wilting in unnatural heat. He saw Cersei on the Iron Throne, Winepool eyes reflecting wildfires blooming through Flea Bottom. He saw Daenerys aloft on Dragonback, Drogon's wings blotting out daylight, her gaze fixed on a sword of flame in a bastard's grip, equal parts hope and rival. He woke before dawn, sweat cold. Lightbringer rested beneath his bunk, dull until touched. He dragged it into the courtyard, swung it in slow arcs, letting the blade's glow chase away the nightmare's chill. Snowflakes hissed into steam. Guards left him wide berth. Few dared approach when the smith's insomnia forged circles of melted ice on flagstones. Within a week, word reached Winterfell that Stannis had quit Storm's End, marching toward King's Landing with barely 3,000 ragged spearmen and half as many knights. His fleet, what remained, hugged the coast, but storms wrecked 2 cogs outside Shipbreaker Bay. Reports claimed Stannis blamed his losses on the false flame wielded by a bastard puppet. He carried a new sword, bright, yes, but Gendry knew glamour when he heard description. Glass painted sunset red by trickery. Stannis's fury would burn until quenched by truth or blood. Meanwhile, Cersei fortified the capital. Gold cloak patrols doubled. Crossbows lined every wall. She hired a company of Braavosi engineer alchemists, promising them pardons for past crimes in exchange for new wildfire catapults capable of launching green death at any besieging host. Gendry tensed reading Sam's copies of intercepted reports. Wildfire feared nothing, not cold, not prophecy. Lightbringer would be a candle beside such madness. Sansa convened council in Winterfell's Great Hall. Jon, Davos, Sam, Tormund, Jon Royce, Lyanna Mormont, a maester from White Harbor, and even Bran, though he seldom spoke these days. She laid out a map of the realm and placed carved figures. A red stag for Stannis advancing east, a lion for Cersei entrenched, a dragon for Daenerys making slow but relentless progress up the Rose Road. She looked to Gendry. The world sees you as symbol, fire that thawed winter. If you ride south under the direwolf banner, banners will flock. And if I ride under a hammer? Gendry asked softly. Then the small folk will still flock, Davos said. They know a blacksmith's honest callous. King's less. Bran's voice rustled like wind through dead leaves. The forge must travel. Lightbringer hungers still. Gendry swallowed. He had hoped the sword satiated by the Night King's fall. But prophecy seldom left plates half-finished. He pictured Arya weaving through Fry halls, pictured wildfire raining on innocent roofs, pictured Stannis's fake blade shattering under real heat, then turning his wrath on those who refused his claim. Very well, he said at last. I'll ride for King's Landing. I'll speak with Stannis first if chance allows. If he'll parley. Jon placed a hand on his arm. Not alone. No, Gendry agreed. Not alone. Within days preparation commenced. Provisions, ravens to Riverrun, to Old Town, to Dragonstone. Maester records claimed Valyrian steel could withstand wildfires by better than common iron, knowledge that might save thousands. Gendry forged arrowheads tipped with river pebbles of dragonglass fused to steel, gifts for the Brotherhood without banners rumored near Harrenhal. Sansa sewed a banner, a hammer of flame encircled by direwolf and trident, signifying unity of north, river, and fire. At parting, Bran summoned Gendry to the Godswood. Snowflakes drifted around the weirwood's red-drenched face. Bran's pale eyes seemed distant, pupils like small midnight moons. You will stand where 3 fires meet, he murmured. One burns green, one red, one gold. Quench the wrong flame and night returns. Gendry knelt, unsure whether to respond. Bran laid a hand upon his brow. A rush of visions flooded Gendry's mind. Wildfire seething beneath King's Landing, dragonfire scorching fields of golden roses, Lightbringer flaring red as it plunged into black water, extinguishing a tide of embers. Then the images broke like cooled slag. When he lifted his head, Bran was gone, wheeled chair tracks fading under new snow. Gendry rose, heart racing. Prophecy gave no rest. They departed Winterfell amid cheers and tears. Jon, Davos, Sam, a cadre of Northman lancers, White Harbor bowmen, and 2 silent sisters carrying ready shrouds. For hope rode beside death always. Lightbringer's glow guided them at night, a lone star on earth. Ravens flew ahead, bearing messages of truce to Stannis, appeal to Daenerys, ultimatum to Cersei. Cease wildfire manufacture or face judgment in living flame. Whether any would listen remained unseen. On the 5th night south of Moat Cailin, they camped by an abandoned septri whose stone towers leaned like old men bowing to wind. Gendry watched sparks rise from the cookfire, thinking of Arya somewhere east, moving through shadow. Sam sorted scrolls by flicker light, muttering about logistics. Jon paced, Uneasy, beyond the Broken Branch River, reports said sellswords massed under Golden Company banners. Elephants, brazen shields, cunning generals. The realm was a tinderbox. One spark could set everything ablaze again, undoing all they'd saved. Tormund stomped over, hunkered beside Gendry. He held a wineskin. Dreams gnawing. Prophesies. They don't sleep. Tormund swigged, wiped mouth. Prophecies are like women. Gendry arched a brow. How so? Best enjoyed in the moment, not chased into dawn. Chase them too hard and you lose your breath, trip on your own feet, and wake colder than you started. Gendry chuckled. Solid counsel. Keep the blade hot, Tormund said, rising, but keep your heart hotter. He slapped Gendry's shoulder and strode away, singing tunelessly. A shooting star crossed the night. Gendry's eyes followed its fiery tail. It burned red, then green, then vanished. 3 fires. The wrong flame. Bran's riddle echoed. He gripped Lightbringer, feeling its pulse match his own. Southward waited the turning of the world's last great key, and he would be anvil or hammer or both. Destiny cared little which, so long as sparks flew. They crossed the Trident at Fairmarket under banners half forgotten. Slashed lion of a rebel knight sworn now to Sansa. Blue rose of House Moody revived by marriage to a Karstark cousin. The black stag of Baratheon quartered by a fiery heart. Common folk emerged from tumbled huts, offering brown bread, thanks, fearful glances. Many knelt to touch Lightbringer's hilt when Gendry paused. Some pressed sick infants to the sword's warm edge, believing miracle heat chased fevers. He prayed it did, though he doubted the god of fire concerned himself with simple ills. By the time they reached the ruins of Maidenpool, Stannis' outriders found them. Banners white with 3 leaping stags approached, lances raised only halfway. Gendry rode to meet them under truce. Their captain, a gaunt man with eyes like river stone, announced that Lord Stannis would accept parley at dawn within the septri of St. Maribald by the marsh pools. Terms: 20 men aside, no swords drawn until meeting's end. Jon insisted on joining, Davos as well. Sam argued for scholarship's neutrality. In the end he came too, heart pounding louder than his quills. They rode through early fog smelling of salt and decay. The septri stood half-sunk. Bell tower collapsed, bells themselves missing. Within, candlelight flickered. Stannis waited before a makeshift altar. Cold determination cut deeper into his cheeks than near starvation. At his side glimmered a sword, orange, bright, but its flame flickered irregularly, like hearth embers coaxed by hidden bellows beneath the blade. An illusion, Gendry thought. Stannis' gaze fixed upon Lightbringer the moment they entered. "Return what is mine." "It never was," Gendry replied evenly. "Forged from my blood, tempered in sacrifice you would not make." "Sacrifice?" Stannis' laugh was brittle. "I would burn half the realm to save the other half. And yet you demand another's work." Stannis' knuckles whitened on his sword. The flames foretold a prince. "I am that prince," Melisandre aired, "but you hold the instrument of deliverance. Give it. Kneel and I will legitimize you, name you Lord Storm's hammer, seat you in Shipbreaker. Refuse, and I name you usurper." Jon stepped forward. "Storm's End needs grain, not blood. The North offers ships of winter wheat if you cease this quarrel." Stannis rounded on him. "You, Snow, bastard of the treacherous wolf. You wear Valyrian steel gifted by treason. Do not preach peace to me." Jon's voice remained calm. "Peace keeps ghosts from walking." Stannis sneered. "When Cersei's wildfire lights the night and the Dragon Queen turns fields to ash, you'll beg my sword." Gendry unclasped Lightbringer, stepping between the men. "Test the blades." "What?" Stannis blinked. "Strike yours against mine. Let truth shine." Stannis' smirk returned. "Very well." He lifted the orange glowing sword. Its surface seemed to ripple with internal fire, but candlelight betrayed faint glassy sheen along edges. Glamour magic layered thin as lacquer. Gendry raised Lightbringer. The sword lit at his thought, radiant red gold. Gasps from watchers. Gendry breathed steady. Stannis swung. Fury behind the arc blades met with deafening crack. Stannis' sword shattered like spun sugar, shards falling in dim sparks. Lightbringer remained whole, vibrating with song. Stannis staggered, eyes wide not with fear but betrayal. He stared at his ruined sword, trembling. Then, in a voice strangled, he whispered, "She lied." He sank to knees. Plates clanged. For a breath no one moved. Jon gestured, guards relaxed. Davos rushed, kneeling beside his king, murmuring. Stannis' shoulders hunched. A man wrestled by the weight of false faith. Gendry knelt opposite. "The realm still needs you. You swore to protect." Stannis met his gaze. For once, the king's eyes carried no accusation, only exhaustion. "I am broken. Steel remade is stronger." Stannis closed lids, exhaled. When he opened them, ember of resolve glowed, a tempered ember. "Forge me anew, then. I will march beside, not ahead." Parley ended with unexpected alliance. Stannis agreed to combine forces north of Blackwater, strike only to dismantle wildfire caches, protect small folk evacuations. He would yield claim until Cersei and dragons were answered. Whether the world believed such humility would be tested by deeds to come. As Gendry exited the Septri, dawn's first light pierced ragged roof. It caught Lightbringer, scattering motes of crimson across damp stone. One landed on his palm, warm as hearth. He rubbed it away, but warmth lingered. 3 fires: green wildfire, red Lightbringer, gold dragonflame. Bran's riddle turned again. The wrong flame quenched would doom dawn. Which was wrong? Which right? He breathed mist into chill dawn. Horses stamped outside, ready to ride. In the east, sky blossomed peach. In the west, thunder rolled, the Golden Company breaking camp perhaps. The realm held its breath between infernos. Gendry mounted, Lightbringer slung across his back, humming anticipation. South lay the city of his birth, the queen he never knew, dragons, wildfire, and the crucible of all prophecies. He urged the horse forward. The convoy rumbled onto the King's Road. Sparks danced from iron shoes upon cracked stone. Ahead, King's Landing waited like a cask of oil beneath a storm-struck lamp. And the Smith rode, hammering hope against anvil heart, praying that when 3 fires met, his would shine bright enough to temper, not destroy.